During the 2019 to 2020 season, the NBA had a total of 6 international players who made an All-NBA team. And also, based on the 2020 to 2021 NBA General Manager survey, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic were chosen by NBA GMs as the player who they would most likely start their franchise with. Well, come to think of it, the world's best basketball league having an international player as its face would have definitely sounded a little ridiculous probably about 20 years ago, because just a couple decades back, it was really hard to grasp the idea of non-American players dominating a league which was mostly about guys like Jordan, Kareem, Magic, or Larry Bird. But as of the moment, there are a total of 107 international players from 41 different countries who are currently playing in the NBA, while 25 years ago, there were only 24 of them in the league. And whatever the reason is for the sudden surge of international talent in the NBA, we are most definitely living in a time where scouts consider it as imperative to break ground and visit Europe and other countries on a regular basis to potentially find the next great NBA superstar. Even in the recently concluded 2020 NBA draft, we've seen a total of 5 international players selected in the first round alone, which includes guys like Deni Avdija, Killian Hayes, and Aleksej Pokusevski. And in the upcoming 2021 draft, of course, the obvious top dogs would be Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, or Jalen Green, but there are also a handful of overseas guys who are worth the look of NBA scouts. And that's why in this video, we'll have a rundown into a couple of international prospects who belong to opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of popularity and draft rankings, but who I think are both very intriguing. So what's good guys, it's Rero Balls here, and in this video, we'll take a look at Usman Garuba from Spain, one of the most high profile and probably the most highly regarded international prospect for the 2021 NBA draft, and the NBA G League's own Kai Sotto from the Philippines, who right now is one of the most intriguing international players out there. But before we move on, it would be great if you guys could hit that like button right now because it helps me to be able to create more content like this moving forward. It only takes a second of your time, but it definitely helps me a lot. So let's get to it. After Yao Ming in 2002, we haven't really seen any international player who was deemed as the consensus top prospect from his draft class. Luka Doncic could have been that guy, but sadly, not all NBA scouts really saw how special he could become. Well, it may actually take a few more years before another international player with Hakeem or Yao Ming's reputation arrives, but as it is, there hasn't been any shortage of international talent being discovered in recent memory. But will we find the next great international NBA superstar from the 2021 draft? Well, first, let's look at Usman Garuba, an 18-year-old 6'8" center from Spain who plays for world-famous basketball club Real Madrid. Garuba will most likely be that guy who'd get to wow a lot of people because he gets picked really high in the draft despite not a lot of people really knowing a lot about his game. Because based on early mock drafts, he's projected to be the best international prospect this 2021. And actually, this guy's very intriguing if you look at it. He's Real Madrid's starting center, but despite having a 7-foot wingspan, the guy is only 6'8", and even in today's small ball era, he would still be considered as an undersized big. But despite that, there's actually a reason why scouts think that this guy's the real deal, because for a guy with this build, what's real impressive is how good he is in getting up and down on the floor. Garuba actually looks like the perfect center in today's positionless NBA because he can just do a lot of things with his agility and his high motor. Basically, this guy is a tremendous finisher around the basket, and currently, it's very hard not to be impressed with an 18-year-old who's able to hold his own around the rim against grown men in the EuroLeague. Watching him, you'd be amazed at how he's able to catch almost any kind of lob pass while scoring the ball at a high rate. He's simply a freak on the basketball court basically. And although right now his game is mostly based on dunks and layups, he's also been showing flashes of extending his game to the mid-range and even on the 3-point line at times. Garuba first got the attention of NBA scouts just a few years back when he was named MVP of the 2016 FIBA U16 European Championships as he led Spain to a gold medal finish. As at 14 years of age, competing against guys who are mostly 2 years older than him, Garuba averaged 16.3 points, 12.4 rebounds, and a tournament best 3 blocks per game. Then, 2 years after, in the 2018 FIBA U18 European Championships, he further proved that his dominance in the international stage isn't a fluke as he followed up with 15.6 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game as he once again helped Spain take home the gold medal. Well, it's been solid in FIBA tournaments, but it's also been amazing while playing for Real Madrid. Well, in fact, he's been breaking records which were previously held by Luka Doncic when the guy was still playing in Europe, as in the 2019 to 2020 season, at 17 years of age, Garuba became the youngest starter in Real Madrid history, and he also became the youngest player in the Spanish League's history to record a double-double when he put up 13 points and 10 rebounds in a game, once again overtaking Doncic in the record books. In October 2019, he already made his EuroLeague debut, and ultimately, he finished the season with averages of 4.4 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 0.3 blocks per game. Well, his numbers definitely aren't eye-popping, but you gotta take note that he only played an average of 12 minutes per game. And considering that he's playing against mostly grown men in the EuroLeague, it's safe to say that Garuba is off to a good start. And remember, even Luka Doncic in his EuroLeague MVP season in 2018 only averaged 16 points, less than 5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game while playing 26 minutes per contest. Well, those kinds of numbers wouldn't be considered MVP worthy in the NBA for sure, but of course, we've all seen the kind of offensive explosion that Doncic has been putting up in the big league so far. And so I think this guy will be really good once he enters the NBA. I think he'll be the perfect player in a league which prefers hyper-athletic big men who can defend multiple positions and who excels in playing the pick and roll. Because right now, Garuba is already mobile enough to guard guys both from the perimeter and around the rim. Plus, he's already showing a lot of promise on the defensive end. Actually, his per 36-minute stats in Real Madrid actually shows that he would average 2.5 steals per game in the NBA, which is a ridiculous number for a big man. I think he'll have to play more as a power forward in the NBA because of his height, but he'll still most likely be effective as a small ball center, sort of a Draymond Green type of player. Plus, he's already much quicker than most traditional NBA big men, which is a big plus. Well, I don't necessarily agree with the Zion Williamson comparisons, but at this point, he kinda reminds me of a much faster version of Al Horford. A big man who does a little bit of everything, someone who can post up, attack the rim, and even shoot from outside. But overall, barring any major problem, Usman Garuba looks primed to be the top international prospect in the 2021 NBA draft, which you should look out for in the next couple of months. But on the other end of the basketball spectrum, there's this guy from Asia who's been quite under the radar in draft discussions. Well, it's kinda intriguing knowing that the Philippines is the NBA's 4th highest international market solely based on League Pass viewership, and the country also had the highest viewership rate during last season's playoffs, and yet, there still hasn't been any full homegrown Filipino talent that's been able to make it to the NBA. But this 2021, that will likely change with the arrival of Kai Sotto. The 7'3" Filipino phenom has already been making waves both on social media and in the eye of NBA scouts as he has agreed to become the first international prospect to become a part of the G League Ignite Select team. While unlike Garuba, Sotto is still considered as a raw talent based on NBA metrics, and frankly, he isn't even included in a lot of NBA mock drafts, and most likely, a lot of it has got to do with his limited visibility. The G League Ignite team hasn't even played a single game yet, and Sotto's commitment to play for the Philippines in the Fiba Asia Cup qualifiers would also further delay his participation in the G League bubble. That is why you just can't blame scouts looking at this guy as a big question mark. But still, when you're an 18-year-old kid who stands 7'3" and has a 7'5" wingspan, who's got solid footwork, advanced passing skills, a solid touch from the perimeter, and steady rim protection abilities, it's still definitely going to be hard to pass on you. Basically, the NBA itself saw this guy's potential, and that is why he's been part of the G League team. And if any, he's primed to be in at least an NBA-ready frame come draft night because of all the training that he's been receiving since committing to the program. But the truth is, there's not so much tape about this guy which you can look at because he hasn't really played in any domestic league like the Liga ACB or the EuroLeague. But he has already shown that he has real talent when he dominated in past international tournaments which he had been part of. As in the 2018 FIBA U17 World Cup, the then 16-year-old Kai Sotto led the Philippine team to a 13th place finish as he put up 16.4 points, 10.6 boards, and 2.3 blocks per game against guys who mostly were at least a year older than him. And subsequently, in the 2019 FIBA U19 World Cup, he looked just as dominant as he averaged 11.7 points, 8 rebounds, and a tournament best 3.1 blocks per game. Basically, it was during these tournaments when scouts really saw the combination of Kai Sotto's insane physical tools and unique type of potential, but it was when he moved to the States that people really got to take a closer look at his game. As in 2019, Kai joined the Atlanta-based prep program The Skill Factory, and soon after, he was named as the MVP of the 2020 King Invitational Tournament as he averaged 27 points, 10.6 rebounds, and 4.3 blocks. Basically, this guy is considered as a very skilled passer for a big man to the point that there have been Nikola Jokic comparisons as of late. While he definitely has exceptional court vision while also having a reliable game in both the high and low post, while being able to finish at the rim with both hands as well. The guy has also shown flashes of reliable outside and perimeter shooting, and further developing his shot will just strengthen his case to be picked in the NBA draft. And based on the latest scouting reports on him, most notably by Mike Schmitz, a veteran NBA draft analyst who watches scrimmages with the G League team, Sotto's most obvious weaknesses isn't his offensive game or his rim protection, but it's his ability to effectively defend the pick and roll. According to the report, he's still a little bit slow when switching on defense, and this just means that if he wants to be a reliable rotation player in the NBA, he has to at least be able to cover ground on switches, because the pick and roll is arguably the most commonly used play in the NBA right now. Well, so far, Kai Sotto isn't the most mobile big man prospect you'd see out there, but he definitely has great basketball IQ plus the ball handling and the footwork to pair with it. In my opinion, this guy can thrive in the NBA, considering that the league is now seeing a lot of big men emerging based on skill and not necessarily on athleticism. Just look at guys like Nikola Jokic and Domantas Sabonis. Well, for now, it's hard to project how good Sotto will turn out to be, but what's for sure is that he's creating a pipeline for international players from Asia to make it to the NBA, following the footsteps of guys like Yao Ming or Jeremy Lin. But honestly, it's way too early to expect him to create some sort of a insanity moment in the NBA, because the truth is, we haven't really seen him thrive in a professional environment yet. But considering that this guy has all the tools and potential to exceed expectations, I think the chances of him impressing scouts during the next couple of months are going to be quite good. Well, to put it into context, no matter how much disparity in talent or popularity lies between them, Usman Garuba and Kai Sotto still are both international prospects. One is a clear-cut lottery pick who's already turning heads in the EuroLeague, while the other is still sort of a surprise talent who's waiting to show what he's made of in the G League. But in the end, both guys are proof that basketball is at the peak of its ever-expanding global influence. Back in 1984, Hakeem Olajuwon was selected as the top overall pick in the NBA draft, a Nigerian who made it big coming out of his native country on the way to becoming the NBA's first real international superstar. More than 3 decades later, the trend that he started is continuing and is in full bloom, and at this point, we should probably expect to see many more international players populating the NBA in the next few decades or so. And at this rate, I don't think it's impossible for an international player to become the next face of basketball around the world. Thank you for sticking until the end of the video, and as always, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and also please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Again, this is Rero Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.